Football is one of the top sports in South Florida. Every year, hundreds of student athletes go on to play for top collegiate programs across the country. But every time they play, they put their health, their brains at risk. Thousands of student athletes suffer from concussions every year, some of them life-changing. This is how Daniel Brett's life changed.
That kid loved football. He lived and breathed football, and he bled green and orange for UM. If Daniel was 12 years old again and he asked me, with everything that I know now, can I play football, Mom? I would still say yes.
It was 7 years ago when everything would change for Daniel Brett. August 24th, 2009 was the first day of high school and the first official fall practice for the Cypress Bay Lightning JV football team. Daniel was ready to suit up. Daniel's mother, Diana Brett.
He practiced, he worked out, he knew what he had to do, and he achieved his goal.
He had worked all spring and summer to earn his spot on the team, and it was a big achievement for a small guy.
Daniel wasn't a big kid. He wasn't tall, he wasn't too strong, but he was tough. And he did everything he could to make sure he could play.
And his dream was even bigger than the junior varsity team.
Daniel had one goal in life. He wanted to play for the University of Miami Hurricanes.
Being a Hurricane had been Daniel's dream ever since he first put on a football helmet and uniform when he was just 11 years old. Now, almost 5 years later, he was one step closer to realizing that dream when he became the starting linebacker for Cypress Bay's JV team.
He knew he was going to make it. But that's why it was that important that he showed no weakness.
But sometimes we are only as strong as our greatest weakness. Daniel would come to realize this very suddenly when his first football practice at Cypress Bay became his last. Practice was in full swing when Daniel's world went dark.
He was on the field, not doing well, and coaches, of course, come on, Brett, get moving, and he finally said to the coach, I can't see.
Chris Ullman was one of the coaches on the field that day.
He was banged up and we pulled him out of play. From there, he didn't play with us any longer. It's where he didn't want to stop. He couldn't do it anymore because of the injuries.
I knew practice was just about over, and I left him a message. Say, if you need a ride, call me, I'll pick you up. Instead, he picked up, and I said, do you need a ride? He says, Mom, you got to come in. Coach has got to talk to you.
It's a call no parent wants to get. Daniel had a concussion, and it turns out the injuries had dated back for several months, hiding them from his teammates, the coaches, and his mom.
And what happened was that Daniel, the entire spring, the entire summer when they were competing and seeing if they can be on the team, got hit quite a few times, but he never told anybody. He was that determined to make the team.
Doctors later determined that Daniel had incurred several concussions in the months leading up to the start of the season, but never spoke up. Instead, he followed the silent culture most athletes are taught since childhood: suck it up and push through the pain.
When they fitted themselves for helmets, he was like grimacing. We said, what's wrong? He says, oh, the helmets are tight, and that's why I have a headache. He never asked for anything. He never said he was hurt.
The injuries would be enough to keep him off the football field for the rest of his life. His dreams were over, and his life changed forever.
I remember he came in, we were told that he had the concussion, that he wasn't able to play anymore, and we were supportive in that aspect, but after he was done, it was finished.
Fall turned to winter, and football practices turned to a schedule filled with doctor's appointments. The throbbing headaches only got more intense, and the growing frustration gave way to depression. His grades took a hit too.
All of a sudden, everything that he dreamed about, all that he wanted, was literally taken away from him. And it was exacerbated by the fact that we went to doctors after doctors after doctors, and the headaches actually were getting worse. They were more frequent, they were debilitating. They kept on saying he has post-concussion syndrome. Obvious, but there was nothing that was assisting him.
That was until Diana stumbled across what would be their first glimmer of hope, the U-Concussion program at the University of Miami. I'll be back next week to continue my series on Daniel Brett and concussions in youth sports. I'm Erica Orstad, now back to the desk.